Hey, Connie. All right. Let's say I just upgraded you to a panelist.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm just going to pause. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. For those of you who I haven't met personally, my name is Jesse Hill. I'm the president of Tier 3 IT Solutions. And I'm so excited today to be able to welcome Connie Clark from Mission Computers. She's a great collaborator and partner of ours. And one of our initiatives this year and moving into the future is to really help our clients make the most of their technology. And our team I think does a really great job of managing the security and the stability and the infrastructure. But when it comes to using those tools, that's where Connie spends her life, is helping people understand the options that are in front of them and get more out of it. So I'm going to hand it over to Connie. We have her here for 29 more minutes. For anybody that has any questions, we've got the Q&A option on the Zoom chat. You can also send a chat message. I'm going to be managing that, but I'm going to mute myself and hand it over to Connie, and can't wait to go through the content with you here today. So thanks, Connie. Take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jesse, for inviting me to this, and welcome everybody to yet another webinar on technology. So this is the first of many with my company, Mission Computers, and Tier 3. So I'm really excited about that. And this looks like a pretty hot topic. So let's get right into it. So we're going to talk about comparing. These are 3 Microsoft products that are in huge demand today and being implemented regularly by a lot of companies. And that's Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive. And so we're going to discover what is the difference. Do I need all 3? Where do I use these things? How do I use them? And how do I make them work for me and not against me? So Microsoft 365 is usually behind this, in that if you have Microsoft 365 product, then you most likely have these 3 products available to you. Unless you have a home version or a student version, that might be a scenario where you wouldn't have all 3. But that being said, I want you to also know that these products are free for people. Now, they have limitations in terms of their ability to do stuff, but they are free. So for Microsoft Teams, for instance, if you're concerned about, well, if I go on a Teams meeting with somebody, if I don't know if they have Teams, can I really invite them to a Teams meeting? And the answer is yes, you could, because they can still opt into that Teams meeting and use the free download or use the Teams on a website. So just a quick little hint there. But I am tying this into 365 because I'm assuming most of you have that, and that's what Jesse's company is supporting you on. So let's talk about working in the cloud, because really that's what this is all about. Is with these products, this is what this is letting you do, is work within the cloud, not be tied to your office desk or your office computer, but have a place where you can store your information, store your collaboration, store and communicate with other people easily, no matter where you are. You could be on a beach in Mexico, because hey, that's a real thing now. We can all leave easily from that airport. So I'm quick little thing about me before I go into the deep dive of all these 3 things. As Jesse said, I'm with Mission Computers. I actually started this business of computer training back in 1991. Here's evidence of that. The big hair, won many awards for facilitation, even for business, a small business award. And I have lots of great clients that support me and write lots of great things about me. So just so you know, I do know a few things about technology, and I love working with Jesse's company and helping people. So let's get into the differences. So we're going to talk first off about OneDrive and SharePoint. And so these two products are all about saving your files. And there's a little bit more to it than that, but let's just at its core, that's what we're going to compare. So when you look at where your files are right now, so that could be on a server, that could be on your computer, that could be on memory sticks, that could be a variety of places, and hopefully that's on a backup drive or a backup system that Tier 3 is managing for you. But nonetheless, where are your files? So if you have files that belong to you personally, for the business or work that you do in your office, then those files might be stored in a My Documents kind of scenario, or maybe you have that separate drive letter that's still on the network, but it's really your drive, so that you can store your files and have them separated from everything else. So that scenario of files we're comparing to OneDrive. And so even though I say personal here, I want you to think personal as well, in terms of my personal work. So the work I do in the office is a little bit different than everybody else. So I have some of my own files. So those personal files, how do I store them? They could be in the world of the cloud. They could be stored in OneDrive. So I want you to think of OneDrive as, in terms of the name of it, one. So it's meant for one person. So you can share files from OneDrive, just like you can share files from your computer, but you have to pick and choose which files or which file folders you're sharing. It's OneDrive is not assuming you're sharing anything. OneDrive assumes those files are just for you, right? So it's meant for one person. Now, the second scenario I have here is those shared files. So if you have a server within your office, the point of having a file server is so that the organization can have all of its files kept centrally. And there's certainly a big group of files that everyone can access and take advantage of and use and open and work with. And so those shared files, the ones that you expect your organization, the people within it, to use on a regular basis, those could be the files that are in SharePoint. Now think of the name of this application, Share. So SharePoint is all about sharing. If you know the files that you want to work with are meant for sharing, then they should be in SharePoint. And so again, I'm going to go back to OneDrive. This is what I see people doing. Well, I use OneDrive. We kind of all get familiar with it. It seems pretty easy to use and it kind of similar to our other systems. So we start sharing like crazy from our OneDrive. I share, Pete shares, Sally shares, Joanne shares, everyone shares, right? But now as an organization, we have to figure out, well, where did that share originate from? And what about Sally? She wants to retire and move to the beach, for the rest of her retirement days. So how do I get Sally's files now? And so it's not the best practice, because now you're putting the sharing into the hands of each individual person, and you're not kind of creating that system or that organization for your company or your organization, so that everything comes from the same place. So SharePoint and OneDrive have two very distinct purposes. Let's take a quick peek, and I'm going to go into a bit of a demo here too. I think I have enough time for that. So after this presentation, you'll see this live. But OneDrive can look very similar to a filing system like you have on your computer, with the folders and subfolders and all that kind of stuff. If we look at these are snapshots of my computer, by the way. I can actually see my OneDrive files on my computer. I don't have to go onto the cloud or onto the web and log in and try and find my OneDrive. I can just have my OneDrive available to me from my Windows Explorer, or if I'm on a Mac, from the file management area in there. So, but this is called, if I do that, then I'm saying I'm synchronizing my files. And this, by the way, this setup should be done by your IT professionals at Tier 3. So, because you want to make sure that that's set up perfectly, so you don't have any hiccups or problems along the way here. So the advantage here, though, is I can see my files, so that I can easily just drag and drop stuff if I need to from this area. Now, SharePoint can look a lot different. And so I'm saying it this way for a reason, and that's because this is one option. So my SharePoint site, if I want people to go to files, I can actually have them go to a website that is really the SharePoint site. And I can make it look all kind of pretty here with pictures. And if they click on a picture, it goes to files or it goes to other information. This is one way of setting up SharePoint. This isn't the only way, but this is one way it can look. Another way that it can look in this example here, this is just the templated example that SharePoint gives you in terms of how its site looks if you went on the web to take a peek at it. And the documents, as you can see, are way over here on the right side with folders. So you have that folder system. But there's a lot more to SharePoint than just folders, and I'll get into some of that in a few minutes here. This whole system, though, just like I showed you Windows Explorer, like on my own computer where I could see OneDrive files, I could see SharePoint files that same way. I don't even have to go onto the web. I don't have to go to these new windows to see this and get confused about how to move around. I could just be in my Windows Explorer. But again, that requires a lot of thought and planning, and has to make sense for whoever that person is that wants that they get access to that information and that it's set up correctly. So don't think you can just do it, at a whim kind of thing. So SharePoint, let's talk a little bit about the specialties of SharePoint. So you saw how it could look like a website. So just again, one option, it could look like a website. I could make it look like OneDrive. I could make it just show me my file folders if I really wanted to, because I have that customization, the choice within SharePoint. But one of the big things about SharePoint is its ability to give permissions and different levels of permission to different people for different things. So permissions is like this web of ideas or information that you can create within your SharePoint. And so you might have a little bit of this happening already if you have a file server, because you probably have very special permissions on certain folders that you're sharing as an organization. So the same kind of thing can be in SharePoint, but you can probably even go a step further with that. The other thing about SharePoint is its ability to manage your documents and create workflows. So I see a lot of people using Adobe these days. They want those signatures, and then they have to scan stuff. And there's a lot of steps sometimes involved in getting the right documents in the right hands and getting it signed off and making sure people have read stuff or seen stuff. SharePoint could create, with the help of a bit of programming behind the scenes, like Power BI, and there's some other tools that SharePoint has, that it can create a system of sign-offs for you. So if somebody opens a particular file or a form and they fill it out, that sends an email or a notice to somebody else, maybe to the manager that says, okay, Connie's filled out the onboarding form, or Connie's read the policies, and then it can send another document to that other person as well. So you could create workflows really and kind of create a little bit of automation in there. Another thing about SharePoint is the collaborative nature of it. Now, you can do a bit of collaboration with OneDrive as well. So just to make sure we understand this point here from both sides. And by collaboration, one of the things I'm referring to here is that if I'm in a Word document or an Excel document, Jesse could be in the same file with me. He could be writing notes in it or adding stuff to it. He could be making comments. We could even have a chat on the side of it to talk about the document as a whole. So that kind of creates a really new area for us in that, gone are the days of I can't open the file or it's only read only because, Susie has it open. That's not a problem anymore. Anybody can open up the file, provided you have permissions, of course. But so collaboration, that's one of the ways you can collaborate. There's some other ways when we get into the third part of this, which is Teams, that you'll see is going to be available with that part. Sharing files internally and externally. So I can take SharePoint and I can choose to make a place for files that only the people within my organization can see, a subset of people within my organization can see, many subsets. So I can have different SharePoint sites is what that means. And that could just be all internal. And then I could have other ones where, well, Jesse and I are not in the same organization, but we want to share some files together, or we want to collaborate on some stuff, or we want to house our videos in the same place, or, we want to chat. So we could have a site, a SharePoint site that we're both members of, and we could have certain permissions around that. And we can invite other people and give them certain permissions. So there's a lot of potential here with permissions and with internal and external. Now, Jesse, I'm seeing a bit of chatter in the chat. So before I go to the next topic, which is going to be Teams, I've talked mostly about SharePoint and OneNote. I wanted to take a quick little pause here and see if I should address any questions or any confusion that I might have created by describing these two products.
No, it's fantastic. And I just want to highlight really what Connie was saying about all of these permissions and access. The reason that she mentioned, hey, you don't just go and turn this on, but talk to us about it, is that you want to set it up properly, or as close to the way you intend it to be used from the beginning, because it's always easier to set things up fresh than it is to go and rework it down the road. The one question that we have is from Greg, and his question is about, I think, managing files and folders that they are sharing with essentially outside parties. So their board of directors. Now, these are people that probably don't have an email address that's associated with that organization. They're individuals, kind of all over the place. And so do you mind, we want to just talk a little bit about how you envision he might be able to do something like that?
Yeah, so if it's a set group of people that you expect to be sharing files with, and it's on a regular basis, then that's where I would suggest you create a SharePoint site for that group. So you don't have to keep checking to see, did I give, Susie is part of the board of directors, did I remember to give her access, or did I just give it to Frank? So you want to know who the group is and know that what you have there is shared by everybody in the group. And if you have a new member come on, then you just add that member to the group. And you can do this within Teams, which is what I'm going to get into right away here. But really, if it's a regular group you're dealing with, nothing wrong with having a site devoted to it. And that's kind of why you might see I'm a little biased about the OneDrive, because I see too many people. I'm going to share this folder, I'm going to share that folder, this file, this file, this file. And like, how are you going to know who you shared with? And how whether you should break the share or not? You have to go into each of them and go into the properties. It's so much extra work. Yeah. Like, stop doing that, right? So, Jesse, did you want to comment at all about that?
No, I just want to say, the way that you illustrated the difference between personal and shared. A lot of times the way that we'll talk about it is, one is more, private, personal, kind of like a consumer solution. Whereas the SharePoint is more of the commercial or the business solution. So while they merge together, and it's one of the IT providers' nightmares is the way that Microsoft manages all of their naming conventions, and they share a lot of infrastructure on the back end. But what Connie's talking about right now is that by using SharePoint, you have business level, commercial grade control over it. And one thing that that goes in behind the scenes is you get more information about who has access to file, who has modified a file, some of those things that you may be interested in down the road. So
good point. Actually, that's a very, very good point, that there's a complete audit trail with your files. And so it's kind of interesting. You didn't even know who clicked on something and opened it up. So never mind that automation, it's automatically there, a lot of that stuff. Okay, so let's go on to the third part of this team of cloud apps that Microsoft's introduced us to, and that's Microsoft Teams. And Microsoft's done a good job of naming their applications because they are really named the way you should think of them. So OneDrive about one person, SharePoint for sharing information, and Teams is I have a team of people that get together regularly to chat about stuff, share files, maybe share some tasks. Maybe we poll each other about stuff. Maybe we have some notes that we need to kind of share. We're working on a project or within the same department or we're on that board together. That team is what should be housed within Microsoft Teams. And we'll see, I'll describe this further for you so that you understand how it fits in with OneDrive and SharePoint. But Teams is a product like no other. As you know from my introduction slide there, I've been teaching a long time, and in terms of business type applications, I don't see anything that compares to Teams. And one of the reasons for that is my next slide here is I call Teams like the house for it all. So it houses everything for you. It can kind of keep people in the right lane, so to speak, or the right team, if we want to use that analogy further, because it has your chat, it has your file sharing, your tasks, your meetings, your notes, your polls, and then a whole bunch of other applications that can be available to you. And when we can even connect our team to other file locations or other information in different places as well. So even websites, like maybe I want this particular team to always have access to the one web page that they need to always log into, or they need to always look at for updates or something like that. So a lot of potential here for what Microsoft Teams can do for your team. So with this, I'm going to switch to a live demo. And if you have any chatter that you want to discuss while I'm switching, then go right ahead. But I'm just going to.
No, I'm the only one chatting right now.
Okay.
This is our first session, and so we asked Conny to come for half an hour. It's already 2:20, so we're going to do our best to manage our time here. If we have to go a little bit long, hopefully people can stay. If not, we might revise our future sessions to be a little longer.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, if I was really telling you everything I want to tell you about these products, we would definitely need more than half an hour. But but there's also attention span. Like, you guys don't want to be overwhelmed with too much information either. So little pieces of information at a time is always great. So here I have us looking at my live team. And what I want you to take note of is really, don't worry about what's over here. I want you to look at my teams on the left side. And most of these actually in this example are samples, so I can teach this, but I do use Teams for real, and I have a lot of live ones as well. So these samples, what I want you to notice from them is that you could make your team for a group of people based on how you want to share information. And I can't tell you the best way because I don't know you and your organization or how information flows for you. You have to plan this out, but plan this out not just sort of willy-nilly, oh, let's make a team today for this and team for that tomorrow. You kind of want to look at the whole organization, where does everything fit? And so some of it might fit into Teams, some of it may not. But if I have a group of people that, like I say, want to share information, then Teams could be a great place to do that. So I have a sample teams of, okay, I have an accounting team, and then I have human resources team, and then I have health and safety. So those could be like kind of departments. But then I have instructors. So I'm kind of getting into my real world. So this is a role. So you might think of it as, rather than instructors, maybe in your world it's managers, or maybe it's yeah, sorry, that's the best one I can give you right now. Manager. So it's just the role that group has. So maybe they need a team. Maybe you need a team based on a project that you're doing so that you can share information back and forth. Or maybe you just need a general office team for the office, And so as I clicked on each of these things, you saw it open up stuff for us. And so that's the point here, is that I figure out who is a group of people that I want to share information with, and then I decide, what do I want to share? And so that's what it opened up for us, as we now see in the accounting team, I might want to share stuff about financial reports or about planning or about tax. So these are what's called the channels. And the deal here is if I click on one of these channels, it changes what I see. So yes, I'm part of the accounting team, but I'm being very specific now as to making sure that the information I'm sharing for the accounting is only about planning in the planning channel. This is where I have chats about planning. This is where I have the files about planning, the notes about planning, the tasks about planning. So it's becoming very, it's kind of like a roadmap to the right information is maybe a way to look at it. And that's why I think you need to take it slow in terms of figuring out which team is which, because I see people creating teams and then, as Jesse mentioned a little bit earlier, we might have to undo it all, and some things can move, some things can't. So you might be, a little bit disappointed in what you've kept for the last 6 months and realize, oh, geez, that's going to be hard to move, or that's going to take a lot of effort or something, So just think through it. What makes sense for my team? And so as you see, there is a lock on some of the channels. And so a lock just means I can make that a private channel. And the purpose behind that is that when I make a team for accounting, let's say there's 5 of us in accounting. Well, maybe not all 5 of us need to see the stuff about tax. So I'm going to lock that channel so that only 2 of us can look at the tax stuff. And maybe there's another 3 of us that need to look at the financial report. So then I can lock it, and I can invite in whoever I want after I've locked it. But overarching, I only have the 5 people to deal with. Like, even though there's 25 of us in the company, I only ever will deal with 5 in accounting. And I can add members, of course, at any time, but that's kind of the gist of it. So I'm going to go down to a team here that has a lot of stuff in it. I just kind of wanted you to see the layout a bit. And we're going to do some poking around so you can see it. And then we're going to tie this back to SharePoint and OneDrive too. So I'm going to go into my training channel. So as an instructor, I want to look at the training that's coming up so I can chat with the other instructors about training. And then I have some files that I want to access as well. And so here you're seeing the files are laid out, like you've got the file folders. If I open up a file folder, I don't know if I have any subs. I could have subs in my file folders. Okay, I don't have an example of that, but I could open up, that kind of that subtree. So the thing you need to understand at this point with files and teams is that these files are showing here, but they're not really here. They are stored in SharePoint. So when you create a team within Teams, you are actually creating a SharePoint site. And so that is where when you start saving files, and if you add more stuff to the team, sometimes the stuff you add to the team is going to go into that SharePoint site. So because you're saying, a team is, by the way, it's teams, plural, for a reason. It's meant for more than one person. So if I have more than one person involved, that means I'm doing what? I'm sharing. It's not for one person. It's not part of OneDrive. It's part of sharing. So then it becomes part of SharePoint. So all these folders are going to be in SharePoint under a site called Instructors. So I don't think I have it queued up, but I'm going to go to SharePoint. Let's just see if I can find it fast enough. So Instructors is the team. So by the way, that's going to be the SharePoint site. And then training is what I'm in. So that in SharePoint, that's going to show as a folder. And then within training, I have these folders. So I hope I'm not confusing you at this point, but I'm just trying to show you the back end of this. You could just start using Teams and not worry about SharePoint. Leave that up to tier 3 to be looking after that for you and looking at permissions and all that kind of stuff. And just know that your files are safe because that's where they're stored and kept track of. But let me just show you what it looks like in SharePoint. So if I'm going to go back here, so this is SharePoint. I just clicked at the top here, so you know that I'm in SharePoint here. You're seeing a lot of stuff on my screen because I'm in and out of here a lot and in and out of my Teams a lot. So it's showing you a lot of information, but we're looking for, just try not to get too distracted with all the stuff you see. We're going to go into Instructors. So you see where it says Instructors here. I can click on this, or I can click on Instructors on the left. Yeah, doesn't matter. I'll click on the left. And then let's just make this smaller because I want you to see something. Okay, so see general budget, meetings, resources, training, general budget, resources, training. So, or sorry, budget's not there. Budget's not there because budget's locked. So because it's locked, it's given another site. So it's given another sharing area. So that's why you're not seeing it. But otherwise you're seeing every team channel becomes a little folder. So if I go into training now, and I could be doing this on a bigger screen here, but if you look at training again, just to compare the two, oops. Compare the two there, agendas, manuals, other references, agendas, manuals, other references. So that's the same thing, right? So this is where the information is. So I could use SharePoint as a company if I want to, or I could use Teams. I could have some people using SharePoint, maintaining it, working with tier 3 to make sure things are working and locked up and backed up and all that kind of stuff. But as just in general for everybody in the office, Teams might be a better house for them to live in. They don't have to live in SharePoint. Just because stuff is in SharePoint, you can still look at it through Teams. Hopefully I'm making that obvious to you here. Now, one thing about Teams though, is I see people going over here to the left, and that's to the chat area. They skip the Teams area. They say, let's just go to chat because I need to have a chat. And look at all my chats here. The chat area can get really busy and really long and scary, and you can certainly kind of, I just clicked on that little arrow so I can close some of that stuff up here. But the point of chat is to say, I want to talk to somebody that's outside of my team, or somebody invited me to a Teams meeting. They're not in my organization. They're not on my, or they're not on my team. So we're seeing the Teams meeting in chat. So if I click on recent again, these are all meetings that I've opened or been invited to that aren't in a team. So why I'm talking about this here is that, I gotta watch my wording. Chat is something that can work for you, but again, think through it. Like don't just use chat because you're not really knowing how to use Teams. It's kind of like saying, oh, I'm going to text Jesse, 3 days of the week, and then sometimes I'll send them an email, and sometimes I'll phone. Like I don't want to have all these different places to find what I communicated last with Jesse. If Jesse and I are talking all the time, we could certainly have a saved chat area for that, like this Project XYZ group, but I don't have as much functionality, as many choices as I would within a team. So a team kind of gives you a much broader spectrum of stuff you can do. You want to save the chats to one-offs and really think about it. Is this really a one-off? If I was meeting with my boss and we have to talk about these things, and it's every Friday and it's always information shared, and we want to keep track of that long term, this chat's going to get really long and scary looking. Maybe we should do that in a team. Maybe we should have a team for that, or a channel that's private for that. Right. So I really want you to consider that. If you're playing with Teams and you're playing in chat too much, that's probably a sign to maybe think through your overall workings of this. But and so one more thing to say about chat, and then I know my time's almost up here, is that why I'm not a big proponent of this system is that, especially if it's just kind of done because I want to quickly chat with somebody and I haven't really thought through, how I'm managing the information long term. So if it's someone in my organization or someone I should have an ongoing communication with, it's not best in here, because if I upload a file, so this file here, training by MC, it's in the files area, but this file is actually stored on my OneDrive. Now, if the other person that's on this project with me, if they're in another organization, it's stored in their OneDrive, or if they're within my organization, because two of us are chatting from two different departments, now we have our OneDrives are filling up with these chat files. It just becomes a bit of a, not as organized as it could be for filing and for where all the organizational documents are, as if we would have just thought about, okay, this project's going to take us 6 months. There's more than one of us us on this project from different departments. We have some external people involved. Let's make a team for it, because then all of our files we know are housed where? In the SharePoint, in one place where we find it, and we can manage it and deal with it. So that's kind of where OneDrive can fit in. The other place OneDrive can fit in is, and this is going to overwhelm you right away here if I click on it, but you're going to see it anyways. Files. Files is where you can see your OneDrive, but this is just looking at your OneDrive. This isn't bringing any of the OneDrive information that you have into the team. It's just, rather than going to find my OneDrive or going to File Explorer, I can look at my OneDrive through here. I can look at Dropbox through here, other sources too. So lots, and I can even search for stuff, but there's lots of stuff in here. I'm talking a little too fast. Sorry, guys, I'm getting a little excited. But hopefully you see that there's potential here. There's a lot of opportunity to do different things within Teams. So just going to take 2 minutes just to click around and show you within this training team what we have. So you saw the post, which is really this is the chat. There's the files. Wiki is like a Wikipedia, which is really kind of like a standard place in every channel where you could say what the purpose of the channel is, or you could have your best practices in here. It's just a standard page available to you in every team channel. You could have a task list. This is Planner that it's going to bring up here with all the stuff that has to be done by people on the team, and you can organize it into different buckets and different time frames. You can have a notebook that you attach so that you can collaborate on notes and share the notes. And so this is bringing in OneNote is what it's doing. So if I click here, you see that. You can have meeting notes. So if you've had meetings and you've used the meeting notes feature within Teams, the meeting itself will be saved within your team, as well as the notes, and it'll be saved in kind of a chronological order with the title of the meetings here. You can link to spreadsheets that you deal with all the time, like just directly right into that spreadsheet. You could link to a list. So this is a Microsoft application called Microsoft Lists. I love this app. I think I'm guilty of this. I use too many spreadsheets just because I want to list of something. Lists is way better, because lists is kind of like, rather than having that, if you're in an office and you have papers, taped to your wall because you have a list of something, this would be where that list could be possibly, because everybody could benefit from that same information. And then you could tie into just like an actual PowerPoint or something, whatever, any kind of app, any kind of file. So lots of potential for this, but this is just in training. If I went to meetings right now, I have a meeting notebook, but I have nothing else. So very, very specific, very specialized for that group of people. All right, so I think I'll stop here. I know I'm over a little bit. I hope I haven't overwhelmed you too much, but a lot of differences between those three apps. So maybe if I could ask a question, Jesse, and then I'll have you maybe talk to some of this. But one of my questions for all of you watching would be in the chat, or even following up later with us. Let us know, like, are you using any of these products right now? And what do you feel has potential for you moving forward? What do you need to use more of? So you're using OneDrive, but you really should be using SharePoint, or whatever your answer is. Go ahead, Jesse.
Wow, Connie, thanks for that. Obviously, a lot of content, a lot of information, and she really tried hard to get it in that 30 minutes that we put aside for her. And the great thing is that we have joined up with Connie, and we're going to be doing one of these sessions every month for, I think we've got the next 6 months or so booked. Mm-hmm. The other thing just to point out is that Connie is available for more targeted training, either I think on, oh, there you go, on a structured class, or in a consulting kind of capacity as well. So do you want to just talk to that really quick?
Yeah. So I have right now, I have actually a schedule. If you go to mission-computers.com/schedule, there's a schedule of live dates. Some of them have passed, but I'll be having spring dates coming out soon. And so there's a lot of different topics, everything from 1 hour to 3 hour topics. on a variety of subjects, including Teams and SharePoint. And then I also have an online portal, thanks to COVID, of course, you can't get in front of the client all the time. So if the client I can't get to you, then you can come to me by just logging in online and actually getting access to a course. And so I have a number of courses that you could sign up for today and actually be learning about and finish by tomorrow. And the thing about these courses, I can give people access for a longer period of time. So you can rewatch things or, kind of go back and look at stuff and do the homework that I give you, read the notes and so on. So this is kind of one of the offers I thought I'd throw out there today. Is I do have the Team Success Blueprint, which is learning all about Microsoft Teams. And you can learn about SharePoint and OneNote and OneDrive, all those things as well, and have 12 months access to that training. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, Jesse, they can still just contact me just by, emailing Conny at mission-computers.com and get a hold of me.
Whew. All right. Well, I am going to just stop the recording.